Well, I think almost everyone knows this disturbing sensation when you enter a room, stopping in the middle and having no explanation whatsoever why you went there. It's a very uncomfortable situation, isn't it? Realizing that you can absolutely forget from one moment to the other what you intended to do. This keynote is about forgetting and remembering, about memory, about the obligation to keep things in mind, but not as individual, rather as a society. So that doesn't work. Oh, yes. Decisions are based on knowing previous situations. Decisions taken today are based on the past and they shape the future. A vivid example is climate change. How can we even notice a change when there are no records from the past? Generally speaking, we need to know the past in order to understand the present and to be able to shape the future. The question is, how will the future remember us? And I don't mean what image the future will have of our time, I mean how will it be able to have an image of us at all? Or in other words, how much past will the future have? In our human history, we developed writing to replace oral transmission, and we created information carriers with growing capacities. Unfortunately, the longevity suffered a significant decrease the higher the capacity became. Durability and capacity seem to be inversely proportional. And again, how much past will the future have? And a further aspect, 300 years ago, all books in worldwide libraries, in universities and monasteries added up to 1,500 kilometers of bookshelves. This is equal to the distance between London and Rome. In 2020, the amount of data stored worldwide in archives and data centers exceeded 60 zettabytes. Well, no one can have a clue how much a zettabyte is. And to get an idea how much 60 zettabytes are, we compare it with the data density of a book. 1 megabyte of printed text has the volume of a book. The bookshelf to hold 60 zettabytes of books would have the length of 10 times the diameter of the solar system. This means we create recorded information in an unprecedented amount, but keep it on data carriers with the shortest lifetime ever. And even if the information remains forever, who should one know what is relevant? However, there is an obstacle which prevents us from keeping everything and forever: energy demand. Storing data needs electricity. Currently, the energy demand of global ICT, information communication technologies, is twice as high as Germany's permanent energy consumption. In the 2030s, ICT will consume 20% of the global energy production. The driving force behind the exponential growth of energy demand are 4.8 billion smartphone users who upload photos and videos in even higher resolutions. And just like photo albums we inherited from our parents and grandparents, we will bequeath our user accounts with gazillions of photos and videos to our offspring. There will be a point in time when we cannot afford anymore to keep everything. The consequence is widespread deletion. Now going back to the graph of durabilities, in 100 years from now, the books we have today will still exist, whereas current records will have vanished long before. This will lead to a society which still remembers what has happened centuries ago, but which cannot recall their recent past. A phenomenon paraphrased as global Alzheimer's. And now imagine the feeling again, when you enter a room, stopping in the middle, having no clue at all why you're there, and project this feeling to an entire society. Already 200 years ago, Wilhelm von Humboldt claimed, "Only those who know their past will have a future." These headlines demonstrate how fragile our information is. It depended on one single person that data gets irretrievably deleted. Information storage requires money. If funds get cut, who pays to keep data? What if Google goes bankrupt? Who will pay to keep Google Books or Google Earth? Although the asset of the most valuable companies in the world are data, there are no solutions so far to handle the gigantic and still exponentially growing amount of data. I dare to claim that 99% of the information stored today is not worth to be kept forever. But how about storing only the 1%? The problems for long-term storage remain the same. Data formats evolve, change of hardware and software, and first of all, the limited lifetime of the data carriers themselves. Data migration isn't really an option, it's costly and prone to errors. And a graphic example, how will future museums, in whatsoever future museum concept, display our contemporary art, which is digital, virtual, interactive, augmented, to their future visitors? There is no clue yet, though there were a handful of research projects in this topic already involved. 10 years ago, approximately, I had the dire vision that the only written remainings of our era will be the embossings on the bottom of stainless steel cooking pots saying, IKEA, made in China. This is why I initiated the Memory of Mankind project, or short MOM project. In the vicinity of the picturesque village of Hallstatt in the Austrian Alps, with its 7,000 years of history due to the nearby salt deposit, deep inside the oldest salt mine in the world, the MOM archive keeps a snapshot of our era to provide future generations an insight into our present, namely their past. On ceramic tablets, basically better bathroom tiles, like this, you can have a look afterwards. This color print is fired onto the surface. This results in data carriers that can withstand all influences which conventional data carriers would destroy. These ceramic color tablets are heat, corrosion, chemicals, UV resistant. And as long as the tablets stay buried, they outlast millions of years. I started to fill the MOM archive by inviting museums to document their most significant objects. Universities use MOM tablets as a award for outstanding dissertations or to honor lifetime achievements. The nuclear industry uses MOM to describe the content and location of nuclear waste repositories. MOM is not a particular storage or backup of humanity's knowledge. There is knowledge which can be deduced by observing the universe. It would be preposterous and a kind of arrogant to store physical laws or pi or the function of a steam machine. The future finders will know themselves. What we do store in MOM are stories how we achieved knowledge. For example, not the gravitational waves are described in MOM, but anecdotes, how we eventually managed to calibrate the detectors. What MOM is also focusing on is to keep knowledge which cannot be deduced by observing the universe, such as art, culture, or social achievements. Photo albums and diaries have been replaced by Facebook and Instagram. There will be almost no physical recordings of our daily life in 100 years from now. It's the private stories that give an insight into the mentality of an era. It's the mosaic of personal statements that represent the zeitgeist. That's why contributions by individuals are a significant part of MOM. MOM keeps the stories that never find their way into national archives. For MOM contributions on color tablets, people have to pay, but text-only contributions are free of charge. And since MOM is a global project, it gives those a voice who usually won't get heard. The geology of the salt rock leads to a natural sealing of the MOM archive as soon as maintenance terminates. Salt flows like a thick fluid and closes every void with a speed of some centimeter per year. This prevents from unauthorized access and protects the MOM archive from the greatest threat, namely man himself. However, burying a vast amount of information in the depth of a mountain without a marker or a hint pointing to it makes no sense at all. This is why a small ceramic disc, the MOM token, is distributed all over the world. It is simultaneously a barrier and treasure map, decodable only for a society with a similar technical standard as we have since the late 90s. A society which hasn't got the means to detect the MOM archive would also not have the capabilities and possibilities to decipher and interpret these contents. This is a short insight into the MOM archive. MOM token comes in an envelope. Also these are the MOM tokens. You can have a look afterwards, and those who are interested can take one. It comes in an envelope saying that every 50 years, all holders of a token should gather and continue to write the story of humanity. Today, families come to Hallstatt to store their personal tablets, and they stand in front of the boxes and ask their kids to return in 2070 with their own kids or maybe already grandchildren, and add a further MOM tablet to the story of their family. Every single MOM tablet is a piece of the jigsaw puzzle, which eventually compiles the picture of our time. A gift to the future. We pass on our present to give the future a past. These are charming moments, but we leave the MOM archive now to turn to something more scientific. My background as ceramist and silicate technologist and my general interest in science and humanities built the basis for the concept of the MOM project. However, possibilities were limited, so I began to use technologies that were in reach and available. The capacity of a MOM tablet is 50,000 characters. This isn't really satisfying. Therefore, I invented ceramic microfilm, which can store 500 times more characters in the same volume. But this was only the start for a much more advanced research project for durable data carriers. Using high-tech ceramic as basis for long-term data carriers triggered a research project which is financed with over 1 million euro by Austrian national research promotion entities. We started to test materials that are common and in widespread use, for example, aluminum oxide substrate, which gets used in medicine for artificial joints, or in the motor and jet industry for valves, heat, corrosion, and stress-resistant parts. We also included the latest developments of advanced glass and glass ceramic as promising material for long-term data carriers into our research program. Temperature shock-resistant glass ceramic and thin glass foils are widely used. The clue for durable data carriers is a very thin and hard coating for the data layer. We tried even higher advanced lasers to write information into the hard data layer. And ceramic data carriers, in comparison to all other types of data carriers, have the highest durability and also the highest temperature resistant. The durability is, in terms of the life cycle of a solar system, literally eternal. 1,200 degrees don't harm the data carrier at all. And 1,200 degrees is the maximum temperature of a major fire. The actual limit of this substrate has an operating range of 1,500 degrees. Just these days, we started to operate our test machine and prototype at the Photonics Research Center at the Technical University here in the 3rd District, not far away from here. And we managed to create structures down to 100 nanometer, which is below the data structure size of a Blu-ray disc. Then we showed images into the ceramic data layer. The image of a grayscale bitmap is transformed by a so-called Floyd-Steinberg dithering to produce the impression of grayscales by accordingly arranging spots in closer or wider distance from each other. However, this method is a decrease of quality, and one cannot reconstruct the original digital bitmap file from the dotted image. And this was a crucial and turning point in our research. We have data carriers now which last forever, but there are no digital data formats with everlasting validity. The problem of digital information is that one needs to know exactly what type of data it is. Additionally, a matching program and operating system is needed to open a file. A closer look on the surface of an optical data carrier such as DVD doesn't reveal at all whether these bits represent music text or a game or AutoCAD map or some algorithm. This is why we developed the HAT format, a format that combines digital and analog data and implies by its mere appearance what type of data it represents. The decoding is intuitive and doesn't require specific knowledge of the nature of the file's encryption. Furthermore, we abandoned the rotating disk, a principle originating from Edison's era. A rotating data carrier is subject to centrifugal forces and therefore limited in reading speed, maximum 50 meters per second. An XY axis controlled laser, in contrary, scans with some kilometers per second. The square surface also gains space compared to a circle shape. And finally, we can arrange bits in matrices instead of tracks. The latter is the key to the HAT format. I will explain how the HAT format works and what advantages are by the example of image files. A digital grayscale image, such as a bitmap, is composed by pixels with grayscale values between 0 and 255. This is due to the size of 1 byte. The image is saved as a row of zeros and ones. Instead of encoding the respective grayscale values into binary, the HAT format substitutes the pixel by tiny 4x4 matrices that represent the respective grayscale value. The black and white dots do not represent zeros or ones, they just assemble a pattern. Pixel by pixel, the matrix substitutes the grayscale value, and with an adequate digital microscope, the pattern can be recognized, whereas a look through a magnifier or conventional microfilm reading device unveils the analog image. Back conversion from the HAT file to pure digital file works via the same lookup table which was used to create the HAT file. Strictly speaking, the output file could be any type of image file used in the near or far future. The HAT data carrier simultaneously contains the original full-resolution digital bitmap and a visual image recognizable to the human eye. The identical principle also works with color images as well. The values of the 3 colors, red, green, blue, are encoded separately in 3 patterns of 3 by 9 dots each. This results in a square matrix of 9 by 9 plus a white horizontal and black vertical line to make distinguishing of the single matrices easier. Again, the full 16.8 million color image is digitally encoded, whereas the grayscale image is visible to the human eye. Here the left top is the microscopic view of the actual data carrier. The size of the white and black dots is 500 nanometer, and the parrot's head is approximately 1 by 1 millimeter. The dummy below shows how even a visible color image can be created by placing the data carrier onto a white monitor of red, green, blue pixels. The digital file is visible as grayscale image and turns into color when backlit with RGB light. The dummy of the data carrier is approximately 100 times larger than the actual ceramic data carrier. So you can try this yourself. I have this dummy here afterwards. And what I demonstrated with images, namely to embed a digital high-definition color bitmap into an analog grayscale image, works with sound also. And this is why I'm standing here on this stage, because Thomas and me met a couple of years ago and discussed the possibilities of storing sound or music in the MOM archive as well. But I will come back to the sound HAT format after the next slide. The readout of the HAT format is intuitive and possible without any deep specific knowledge. When information is written in the HAT format, the analog part can already be read out with the human eye by means of magnification or projection, and with respective technological possibilities, the underlying digital level is accessible. HAT data carriers can already be read with a technical level comparable to ours from around 750. Ceramic microfilm is truly a durable medium, even under extreme circumstances, and the HAT format is a chance to keep visual and acoustic information for literally unlimited periods of time. Back to the vision to store sound in the MOM archive in order to preserve music for millions of years. A first idea was to produce vinyls made of porcelain. They could be 1 centimeter thick, not to break easily. The limits are given by the grain size of the material. Maybe the resulting quality would be similar to a gramophone disc. A different idea was to produce CDs from non-organic material. Tests were made at the university in Twente in the Netherlands using a silicium wafer and coating it with tungsten and photo etching it with a mask which is produced from the master stamper. Sounds complicated, and it was. It is obvious to preserve sound on ceramic data optically. But the higher the quality of the sound signal should be, the more space on ceramic data carriers is needed. During our work on the HUD format for images, we tried to encode a high-quality digital sound signal into a low-quality analog optical sound track, and which is then intuitively decodable. We believe we managed this. The reason why you don't see more about it is that we want you to prove it. If you are interested in trying to code a sample of the HUD sound file, please give me your contacts afterwards during the coffee break. Well, and this is the key word to end my presentation. I hope I could trigger some thoughts about sustainable record keeping. We'll be happy to see you in the MOM project. Thank you, Thomas, for offering the stage to present here. Thank you.
Very much. So, is there any question from the audience? I think that maybe you, Thomas, would also want to talk a little bit more about rotting sounds and your project, maybe. I don't know if you want to join me here for the microphone.
Yes, as Martin already mentioned, we have met a couple of years ago, actually. I have read a newspaper article, maybe 5 years ago or so, and we have been in loose contact since then. Since his wish is to preserve information and our research endeavor of doing the opposite, actually, is very interesting. No, it's a kind of anti-converging thing. We have the same interests, but different targets, so to say. But the mechanics are quite interchangeable or are interesting to know from each other. And this is the reason why I think it's very much connected to what we research on. And this new technology that Martin has developed, I think it's also very interesting to see whether it proves true that it's such a durable medium, or if there are any, even on a long-term perspective, any, so to say, development, transformations, aesthetic changes that could be visible. No, even maybe in the visual domain, if it gets dirty or if it breaks or whatever. I mean, this can, of course, happen. And that's why we will keep track even after the project, of course. And I'm really curious about the demonstration. Maybe we can use the Q&A now also to see what you have brought to us, so that we can all interact a little with this, use the time.
Try it yourself.
Someone wants to step forward? Or?
We also have a microphone here, so if there is any question from the audience, please anytime let us know. Just raise your hand, or yes, over there.
Hi, I wanted to ask, how will you know that now is the time to close the archive and stop adding?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm afraid to make a squeak now.
Geht das schon? Probieren wir es. That's a good question. When it is finished, there is no plan for this yet, admittedly. One thing is then when we realize there is much content from one domain and other domains are not represented, we rather take the focus on other domains or topics.
It's for the stream. Please use the microphone.
Okay.
It's totally fine, don't worry.
Okay. I understood. Thank you very much for this fascinating lecture and all these ideas. But I understood that you transformed the the content and the object in another material. But what's about the materiality? So when I saw your ceramic in the box and with an image of historical canvas pictures, I got the question, but how can we transport or transform the materiality of a canvas or of paint, historical paint? Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, that's also a good aspect. I mean, it's the question of durability. So when we have a time horizon of 1 million years, let's say, we know that organic materials will rotten, and probably the salt mine is a place where you can store organic material for a longer time. But with this long time horizon, it's the documentation which will be preserved and survives, and not the original object. That's true, definitely. This is why institutions such as Denkmalschutz or UNESCO have some problems with this project, because we assume that nothing from our age will survive. No cultural heritage will survive after 1 million years. So it's some kind of devil's advocate situation, the MOM project.
Is your storage technology limited to 2 dimensions, or is it thinkable to add another layer, like for 3-dimensional data, like holography or stuff like that?
Well, 3-dimensional when it's physical in ceramics, that's possible. Yeah, holography is usually on organic material, and this is subject to decay in a long-range time frame.
Would this technology be suitable for storing data in outer space?
Yes, of course. The ceramic data carriers we use now, these are those which are much thinner, and this is one of these examples where there's 250,000 characters written on here on the back side. You can see it then when it's backlit here on the LED panel. And this is flexible ceramic glass, which is used as the high capacity data carriers. I mean, this is not coated yet, it's just the raw material. And there is actually MOM information in space already on the moon about the archive, where it is. It is unfortunately the Israel probe, which crashed on the surface, had a lunar library where the description of the MOM archive is. But they say that the library survived. So.
Do you plan to send it further out?
Well, we are in contact with an initiative, ARC Mission, in the United States, which has the aim to distribute humanities knowledge within the solar system. And they asked us to give a snapshot of Wikipedia to be stored.
Why that?
Yeah. So a snapshot of Wikipedia is a snapshot from one day of one particular year. So it's more than an archive stored somewhere in a space probe or on a other planet, but it's nothing where you can have a backup look what was the standard of knowledge of the 21st century.
So thank you so much. This was absolutely inspiring. Maybe one fun fact, Martin really loves coffee break and loves to talk with audience that have been listening to the lecture, so please take advantage. We are going to have a coffee break now. We are going to kindly ask you to leave the room because we need to change the air due to COVID. We are going to put the post-it on the tables just outside the Klangtheater with some pen. So if you have any other questions or comments after the lecture of Martin, please use the post-it, and you can, I guess, leave them on the table. We are going to collect them later. Thank you so much. We see us in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I will take the LED panel and the material outside to the wardrobe.
Thank you again.
Thank you.